JBlog, 25th of July 2010. Looks like BP is going to make some changes on Monday. That should drive BP stock up, I imagine. Um, it's very interesting. We're just on Sunday here. We'll see how that all continues. Just looking at headline numbers here. So UK July house prices fall 0.1%. Nothing much new there. Um, this is the market for last week. This market is very confusing to me. I must say, I am confused at this point. This market has a propensity to ignore any kind of bad news and rally on the most trivial good news, meaningless stuff. Take over here, whatever, some sort of meaningless reports that drive the market up. And important reports like still no employment, housing prices going down, housing sales going down, it's completely ignored. This is a strange market. I don't understand it. But from a technical perspective, Friday was definitely a very strong technical day. I mean, if I'm looking at this chart, this is an uptrend. So we have a higher high over here, we have a higher low over there, potentially a slightly lopsided head and shoulder. That's a reverse head and shoulder formation after an oversold um, configuration. Let's look at the weekly um, chart here and see how oversold we actually were. Stochastically, not very oversold, as you can see this. I mean, you've got um, bulls ripping out their hair saying, oh, the market is so oversold. Well, here we just slightly dropped below the 25. We were grossly overbought here. That didn't seem to matter to the bulls. Um, but here we're totally oversold and it has gone too far. I mean, I don't call this going too far, but that's just um, the way the market looks at that. Now, a few news items I've come across. One of them is here that the Chinese car market is slowing down. There's car manufacturers that are starting to give away iPods with if you buy a car from them. Buy a car, get an iPod. Um, Definitely some incentive needed here as compared to a few months ago when you had to wait in line for a long time to get an automobile. Taxes, the tax cuts that were brought in under the Bush era for the quote unquote wealthiest are to expire end of this year. So we can definitely see there will be some people taking gains in the market if they have gains before the year runs out, and um, trying to clear as much the income this year because obviously next year it'll be a few more percent after that. So that's an interesting news story. Then there's another one that I came across that basically goes um, into the new normal, and the idea here is and this is a website that talks challenges basically people to go through an entire month by only wearing 6 pieces of clothing. Like they just you have a choice and select 6 pieces which you can um, live with. Basically, the idea here is, can you scale down consumerism? It's a very interesting article that talks about that and the experience that people have had. Here's an important article that came out last week that was completely ignored about the housing market continues to stumble, inventories grow, as I said, completely ignored. And another one on a completely different line, solar storms. The experts are expecting solar storms to go up in the future. Um, Sunspots have basically gone down to a minimum, almost gone. And once they come back, there'll be solar storms, and they might come back with a vengeance. There's a few researchers that feel that we could be looking at a solar storm maximum in the next 3 years, which would, of course, be detrimental to any kind of satellite technology, cell phones, such things would be impacted by this. Last time this happened back in 1958, you could see um, northern lights all the way down into Florida and Mexico. So that'll be interesting to see if that actually happens. That could have an impact, a big impact on the market. Here's an article: BlackRock is declining because markets are pulling out their assets after a takeover. They don't want to be part of this anymore. I mean, that's the reason given. Journalists do this a lot lately. Um, they report the story and then they come to some sort of a conclusion of why this happened. Personally, I think people are just selling the stuff because they're retiring and they'd like the money. They don't want to go through another market crash because they've already been through two in 10 years, and they probably don't want a third one. Here's an article that talks about that recessions in the US may be more frequent in the future and more severe. One of the side effects of these financial regulations for the finance world is that a lot of the tools that actually smoothed out the market um, are being taken away or are being restricted, which will actually have a negative effect on the stability of the market, which is interesting. It's very frequently the opposite happens of what people expect. Dubai is still in big trouble. Houses are um, not selling in Dubai, and therefore Dubai real estate brokers have no idea what things are worth because nobody wants to buy there anymore, which I can understand. It was too expensive. It went way too high, too fast, and now nobody knows what it's worth. Um, Another one here, real estate in China. Real estate sales are tumbling, so small cities in the country is no longer making as much money as they used to. China might have to start looking at such things as property taxes and other taxes on real estate, which would slow things down there. And then Goldman Sachs, of course, profits fall by 82%. No idea what went wrong there, but obviously, ever since they made that statement about doing God's work, things have not been going in their favor. So it's quite an interestingly priced stock at this point. In terms of PE ratio, where they're quite cheap, but then down 82%. We'll see how that goes. Um, U.S. Housing starts in the U.S. Slide to lowest level since October on sales slump. Well, we know that. So there's not enough people buying anymore because um, the tax credit has been removed. So anybody who wanted to buy bought, and anybody who hasn't bought until this point simply doesn't have any money. So instead of jump starting the real estate market, it simply pulled sales forward and created an unnatural bump in the market that, of course, now are disappearing. So um, I continue being as bearish as before. Probably be known as Mr. Dr. Doom at one point, but I just continue to not see anything to give me the warm and fuzzies. I think Wall Street is in denial. They're continuing to drive the market up to places where it simply does not belong, and that just means that whenever it goes wrong, it will go really wrong. So nobody will have money anymore, and that is something I don't look forward to. Anyways, good luck next week. Happy trading and all the best.